Sorry about that, you guys. Okay. Did everybody get one? Thank you so much. Okay. So we are going to do two problems that are the step function that we did yesterday. And another thing I should do when I went to print this, I meant to do just the pages for today's stuff. So you want to open your packet until you get to this page. So the other notes are what we did yesterday, so. Okay, so we talked about step functions yesterday. And whatever is inside that double bracket, what you do is you think about what is the integer that is less than or equal to this number. So by integers, you're thinking like -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, 3. So the greatest integer less than 0.5 is 0. The greatest integer less than 1.75 is 1. Greatest integer less than 2.3 is 2. When you get to negatives, it's a little bit harder. We talked about this yesterday. If you have -0.5, that's right here. And you're looking for the greatest integer less than that. So it's actually -1. -2.5 is here. The greatest integer less than that is -3. -4.6 is right here. The greatest integer less than that is -5. Okay. And then we'll also talk about absolute functions, absolute value functions today. And in my opinion, they're the easiest of the three. Okay. So if we look at this one, we did some like this yesterday. Whenever you have the double brackets like that, you're going to do a range. So from 0 to 0.99, from 1 to 1.99, from 2 to 2.99, from 3 to 3.99, okay, 4 to 4.99. And you can go as far as you want, okay? Now, when I check, I always check the whole number in there. So if you put 0 in there, the absolute value less than or equal to 0 is 0. 0 times 4 is 0. 0 plus 1 is 1. So when it's just the double brackets of x and you put a whole number in there, it's going to stay the same. It's when you put something in there that's a decimal that you have to go to the greatest integer less than that, or if it was a fraction. So if I put 1 in there, it's just going to be 1. 1 times 4 is 4. 4 plus 1 is 5. When I put 2 in there, it stays 2. 2 times 4 is 8. 8 plus 1 is 9. Put 3 in there. 3 times 4 is 12 plus 1 is 13. So that's plenty for us to do. Now, again, when you go to graph this, from 0 to 1 is going to be at 1. So for x is 0 to 1, we're going to be up at 1. You put a closed circle here, open circle here, and then you connect it. Okay. From 1 to 2, that's right here. In that region, we're all the way up to 5. So you always do the closed circle at the beginning and then an open circle at the end all the time. And then from 2 to 2.99, we're all the way up to 9. Okay. And then if you ever want to, add more down here, like I said, if you do half the graph with these, this one wouldn't be bad. But sometimes you're doing steps all the way up and it's just kind of time consuming. But if you ever need to add more, like if you're at this point and you are going to there, notice you're going up 1, 2, 3, 4 over 1. Up 1, 2, 3, 4 over 1. So that would be the same as going down 1, 2, 3, 4 left one. So you could always add more if you wanted to. Okay, but if you do half, like half of the x, that's okay for these. All right, so let's try this one. Again, we're gonna go 0 to 0.99, 1 to 1.99, 2 to 2.99, 3 to 3.99, 4 to 4.99. Okay. Now, if I put 0 in there, 0 times anything is 0. 0 times 4 is 0. 0 minus 2 is -2. If I put 1 in there, 0.5 times 1 is 0.5. So now think about that. What is the greatest common integer less than 0.5? So think of it'd be like right here on the number line. Wouldn't it be 0? Do you get that? So then it would be 0 times 4 is 0. 0 minus 2 is a -2. So what this means here is that step across is going to be 2 wide instead of 1 wide. And then when you have 2 of them here, you're probably going to have 2 of them here and 2 of them there. Okay. So if I put 2 in there, half of 2, if you think of half of 2 as 1, 1 times 4 is 4. 4 minus 2 is a +2. If I put 3 in there, half of 3 is 1.5. So we would have to think about what is the greatest integer less than 1.5? Wouldn't it be 1? Right? So then we put 1 in there. 1 times 4 is 4. 4 minus 2 is 2. So you see we have like, this one's too wide, this one's too wide. So we can go, it's actually going to be from 0 to 1.99. So it's going to be 2 across, and we're down at -2. So we're going to have a closed circle and then an open circle. We're going 2 across and we're at -2. Then from 2 to basically almost 4, we're at 2. So from 2 to 4, we're up here at 2. So we do an open circle here. No, line. Closed circle here. We're at 2. Open circle over here. And it's right there. Okay. And then you kind of can see the pattern. You could keep going if you wanted to, but notice from this one to this one, we went up 1, 2, 3, 4 over 2. So then I can go up 1, 2, 3, 4 over 2, and it's going to go 2 wide again. And then I could go up 1, 2, 3, 4 over 2. Does that make sense? So those are step functions, right? Now, the next thing we're going to do, like, you have to be able to distinguish between step functions and what's called absolute value functions. With step functions, you get the double brackets, okay? With an absolute value graph, you get absolute value. And so you just have the one vertical line on each side. Now, like I said, I think these are the easiest one that we've had. So what you do when you're doing these, you take whatever is inside of your absolute value and you set it equal to 0. So if I take 2x plus 4 and set it equal to 0 and solve that, I would subtract 4. And then I'd get 2x equals -4. And then if I divide by 2, I get x equals a -2. Now, what that tells me is that absolute value graphs are always going to give us a V. And that -2, that tells me that the vertex or the bottom of that V or the top of the V, if it goes down, this is our X value where that V starts. So what we do then is when we're picking our points, whatever we get for X goes kind of in the middle. And then you want to pick 2 points that are less than -2 and 2 points that are bigger than -2. I personally just do the next 2 numbers, but you could do any numbers less than -2 and any numbers bigger than -2. So bigger than -2 would be -1 and 0. And now those are the points that we're going to try in there. Okay. So if I put a -4 in here, 2 times the -4 is -8. -8 plus 4 is a -4. And the absolute value of anything is always what? Positive. So our answer is going to be a +4. Okay. If I put -3 in there, I'd go 2 times the -3, which is -6. -6 plus 4 is -2. What is the absolute value of -2? The +2. When I put 2 in there, or -2, sorry, 2 times the -2 is -4, plus 4 is 0. Absolute value of 0 is 0. Okay, now if your points are exactly the numbers just to the one side of this, you know how I did the next negative number and then the next one. And when I went in the opposite direction, I did -1 and 0. If you do this correctly, these 2 numbers would be the same and those 2 numbers would be the same. Okay, but you should check. If you put -1 in there, 2 times the -1 is -2, plus 4 is 2. Absolute value of 2 is 2. So like I said, these 2 are going to be the same. If I put 0 in here, 2 times 0 is 0, plus 4 is 4. Absolute value of 4 is 4. Okay, so now you're going to go to your graph and you're going to plot those points. And if it's absolute value, it should be in a V if you did it correctly. So I'm going to go -4 up 4 and plot that. -3 up 2, -2 at 0, -1 is up 2, 0's up to 4. Okay, and then what you can do there is just use a ruler. My rulers are up here now, and you can connect these dots, and it'll look something like that. Okay, if you've done it wrong, one of these that is supposed to go up would go down. It could end up in a straight line. It never should do that with absolute value. Okay, so now let's look at here. Okay, so again, how you decide what point to kind of put in the middle of your graph is you set whatever is in the absolute value equal to 0 and solve it. So for this, if you divide by 4, 0 divided by anything is 0. So that means 0 should be here. I'm going to go -1 and -2 less are my 2 less than that, and 1 and 2 are my ones that are bigger than that. And then you just go ahead and put your numbers in here. If I put a -2 in here, 4 times -2 is -8. But you have to remember you're taking the absolute value of that. So it's a +8. 8 minus 5 is 3. If I put -1 in there, 4 times -1 is -4. But I'm taking absolute value, so it's a 4. 4 minus 5 is a -1. Okay? If I put 0 in there, 4 times 0 is 0. Absolute value of 0 is 0. 0 minus 5 is -5. If I have a 1 here, 4 times 1 is 4. Absolute value of 4 is 4. 4 minus 5 is -1. So again, notice these two are the same. If I put 2 in there, 4 times 2 is 8. Absolute value of 8 is 8. 8 minus 5 is 3. So now I'm going to go ahead and plot those points. -2 up 3, -1, -1, 0, -5, 1, -1, 2, +3. So you're going to draw with a ruler so you have a straight line. Okay. So it should look like a V, not like a parabola. Okay. Then, see what we have here. These are, let's go to this one. This one is the one that has the most with it. Okay, so how you decide where to start your table is you set what's inside your absolute value equal to 0. So we're gonna go x plus 3 and set it equal to 0. Okay, so if I solve for x is equal to a -3, and that's what goes in the middle of my choices. And then I always go the next number less than, and then the next number. And then in the opposite direction, I do the next biggest number and then the next biggest number. Okay. So when I do this, if I put a -5 in here, -5 plus 3 is a -2. Absolute value of -2 is a +2. That's where kids typically make a mistake. If it's not in a V, they don't take the absolute value and they keep that as like a -8. But remember, absolute value negative is a positive, so that's 8. No, I'm sorry, that was -2, so it's 2. 2 times 4 is 8. 8 minus 2 is 6. Okay, if I put -4 in there, -4 plus 3 is -1. Absolute value of -1 is 1. 1 times 4 is 4. 4 minus 2 is 2. When I put a -3 in here, -3 plus 3 is 0. 0 times 4 is 0. 0 minus 2 is a -2. If I put -2 in there, -2 plus 3 is 1. 1 times 4 is 4. 4 minus 2 is 2. And these are the same. If I put -1 in there, -1 plus 3 is 2. Absolute value of 2 is 2. 2 times 4 is 8. 8 minus 2 is 6. Right? So then if I go to plot those, -5 up 6 would be right there. -4 up 2 is here. -3 down 2. And then -2 is up to 2 again. -1 is up to 6 again. Again, if it's not a V, probably what you did is forget to take the absolute value. So anytime it has absolute value, you have to do make sure that you have a V, okay? Do you guys need to do that last one, or do you get the absolute value ones? You okay with those? Okay, so you're gonna get a worksheet today. And I do have a need for this, you guys. I did put it in the weekly snapshot. So if you want to check it on there as you're working. Yeah. Otherwise, I will put my actual paper key up on the podium so you can check that too. So if you're somebody who would rather look at a paper copy than look at the weekly snapshot, I have that up here. Yeah, please use rulers when you do your graphs. The rulers are up right back here.